Hi and welcome back to another video, and as the title says, I bought another TT. And this TT was the cheapest Mark II TTS in the country at the time. It is a clean car and HPI clear, which means it has a clean title if you're outside the UK. It also has an MOT till the end of March next year. For people who don't know what an MOT is, it's a test that a car has to have every 12 months to make sure it's roadworthy. I know it's a bit of a joke, living in the UK, you see the state of the roads. But there is some exemptions from that, cars over 40 years and cars under 3 years. But this has got an MOT and it is roadworthy and I can use it on the UK roads, which is a great result. And without any further delay, here it is. Let's have a walk around it and see if you can guess what I paid for it. So it's on a private registration, but it's actually a 58 plate. So it's a late 2008 car. It is a TTS model, and obviously it's a roadster. It has 18-inch alloy wheels. It has automatic lights, automatic wipers. It's DSG, mag ride. It has an aftermarket Pioneer head unit and a Pioneer subwoofer. It has white stitching on the leather. Don't know whether that is extended leather pack, I'm not sure, or whether all TTSs come like this. It has 163,000 miles. It has an engine, which I did give a clean up because it was disgusting. Here you can see what the engine was like before. Just gave the whole car a little clean, to be honest with you. It starts and runs. The roof works. So far everything's looking pretty good. So let's have a look at the not so good bits. So when I got this a couple of days ago, this rear light didn't work. And you can see what happened here. But I have sorted it. And now that it's all working.
So typically you get the warning on the dash telling you that a light is out.
I think I know why the rear lights ain't working. I think someone's tried to have a go at this themselves. Really, really badly. Let's tidy this up and do it properly and see if we actually have a rear light.
So I soldered the wires together properly and put heat shrink, so we should have no more worries now.
So that's all the lights all ready. Earth mod ready. So I've done the rear earth mod, the Car Chris one, my one. If you don't know how to do that, I'll put a link to a video up here somewhere, and in the description there'll be a link to where you can get one for it. If you have the rear light problems, or you want to future-proof your car so you will never have the problem. So also there's a few little bodywork issues. Lots of bits, I don't know if the camera's going to pick it up, but lots of marks in the paintwork. There's bits like that all over. This is obviously pinching, because if you look at that line, it's wider here, so we will need to adjust this. I'm hoping that's just a case of undoing the underside, so not too much of an issue, but I want to try and sort all of these up. Not too much of an issue, but I just want to sort all this bodywork out and get it as good as we can get Yeah, it's just literally bits everywhere. All over it. The wheels are pretty good. The only small little 18s. No marks on this wheel, but it has got a Thunder tyre. No marks on this wheel. We do have some curbing on this wheel, so that needs to get addressed. But it's got Bridgestones on the back. And these Thunders on the front. So it had an advisory on the MOT for front tyres, and the guys obviously just put the cheapest whatever thing on the front, which happens to be these Thunders. It also has advisory for a offside lower ball joint, so I'm going to do both sides anyway, so then we know it shouldn't have any advisories next year. A little bit of curbing on this one. Rear diffuser is not secure, probably got some broken clips somewhere, so we'll need to address that. Exhaust heat shield is no longer attached anywhere. The exhaust tips are completely black. I have had a quick go on these ones to see if they come up, and it looks like they will. There's a cover that needs to go on this, which is missing. There's a dent in this door and here, only small dents, but you can see they're there, so hopefully a paintless dent removal can sort that. The piston in the glove box is shot, so I need to try and rebuild that, re-grease that, or replace that. This light unit is very intermittent whether it works or not. I only have one key. This trim is slightly broken, but I've managed to fit it back on, so hopefully that'll be okay. There's a rattle in the boot, so we need to get this trim off anyway to realign that spoiler, and hopefully it's just a loose clip in there. I got the code machine in here, and I have done a full scan, and I think there was about 15 faults that came up, but I have wiped them, and I only get the code now for the stereo, which is to be expected. And the guy did tell me that he had a new battery, so that hopefully is why we had a lot of faults. But once we get it back on the road, we'll see what comes back and go from there and address any issues that we find on the way. I'm pretty sure as we do work on this, we're going to find other problems with it, but on the surface of it, it's not looking too bad. So what is the plan for this car if it's already pretty much sorted? Well, we're going to fix those issues and any other issues that crop up while we're doing stuff, and I'm pretty sure there will be. We're going to bring the service up to date. I know the cam belt's going to be due by the end of the year. The Haldex is a little bit sketchy when that was last done. I think that's about 40,000 miles ago. It might be about 4 or 5 years ago. So I'm going to get that done. I'm going to do the cam belt, give it a nice full service. The DSG has been done recently in the last year, and I do have proof and paperwork of that being done, so I probably won't worry about that. But generally just go over the car, and anything that looks broken or out of line or clips, little niggly bits, will get sorted out. Maybe get a cheeky map on it, maybe some wheel spacers, a few little bits. But I think it's one of those cars, once we start doing stuff, we probably end up doing more, but I'm hoping it's not going to need too much, so it would be nice to keep this under a certain budget. But over impressions, I think I've done all right. And we have got a lot to smash out today, and the things we're going to be doing today are going to keep this TT nice and healthy on the road, and also add a nice bit of value to the resale of it. So without further ado, let's crack on with it.
So with the car all up in the air, nice and level, it's time to get on some work, and we're going to start with the cam belt. I mean, that's due at the end of the year, but let's just crack on with it now. We need to move quite a few bits out of the way to access it, so let's crack on. So I first of all remove the lower shield and get 4 of the 6 bolts out of the way just to make sure they come out okay. Remove the alternator belt tensioner, pin that back in place, remove that belt, and then remove the actual tensioner itself. Then I'll start undoing the cam belt cover. Get a jack underneath to take the load off while we remove the engine mount. That big block there, that is your nemesis. It's an absolute pain in the arse, but it will come out. Next, remove the lower bolt from that, jack up the engine, remove the cover, mark up where the belt is originally, make sure it's all at the top dead centre, remove the tensioner and slide the old belt off. And then we start removing the top idler and replace it with a new one and torque that to spec. And we do the same with the lower idler. Remove that and torque that to spec. So with the idlers both done, it's time to replace the water pump, because it's always a good idea to do that while doing the cam belt. So boom, straight swap over so we don't lose too much fluid. And torque that to spec and then feed the new belt over. Start at the top, always go around the crank pulley last. I always transfer some of the marks from the old belt to the new belt, but with it all on, the tensioner in and the tensioner all done, so the little mouth bit is lining up with the little bit in the middle. You'll know what I mean when you do it. Just do a few revolutions of this just to make sure it all lines up and our time is correct. I do this a couple of times just to double check, so to make sure it's all going to be okay. And it's bang on. So now it's time to move on to the cam follower, something that's often overlooked, but we will tackle that on this car. It's on 163,000 miles. I'm not sure if it's on the original, but you never know. So let's have a look at it and see how bad it is, and hopefully it hasn't gone all the way through. Surely we'd hear it if it has, but I'm pretty sure it's okay. I have got a more in-depth video of doing the cam follower, so look at my other videos and you'll see it there. So with the high pressure pull pump pulled out, we can now see the cam follower. It has lost all the ceramic coating on the top, so I think we have got this just in time. So I'm definitely glad we are changing this. So let's get a new one in there. So we clean it all out. I always use a bit of assembly lube in my cam followers. I find it sticks to the cam follower a little bit better than just using engine oil. Obviously put a new seal on as well, and a little bit of just normal engine oil around that just to give it a better seal. Put that back on and then we'll all go into torque that to spec. Once we've got that sitting nice and flush. There we go, let's torque it all up. And make sure you plug everything back in. Tighten up the bolt at the bottom. Don't over tighten it, you don't need to hang off it, but obviously make sure it's not loose as well, just sort of nip it a bit. And then put the little valve back in, just with a 13mm spanner. Same again, just nip it, and the little plastic cover. Right, after you do everything, just check to make sure things are working. So here goes. Right, so that's job done. Now on to the next one. So now we're going to move on to the Haldex system, where this one is past due. There's the cover that we need to get to. It's got two, I can't remember if they're hex or splines. I'm thinking they're hex. But we need to whip those off. Absolute pain to get to, exhaust in the way. But it is obviously doable. Clean up all around the area where the filter is before you push it out. You can do this by plugging in VCS and making the pump move. There's a certain procedure and it does push out this like retaining sort of bit because the actual filter's behind that, or you can put a screw in the end to pull it out. Here's the actual filter.
I just want to show you how dirty this filter is. I don't have the cameras picking up properly, but it's absolutely like sludge inside it. So very glad we're changing this. That's better. So we want to drain from here and fill from here.
So you should really undo the fill plug when we do the drain one, just in case, but we've already lost fluid, so it had to come out anyway. It's quite a long bolt. So there's the old fluid coming out, and now I'm attacking the fill one. That is a very tight spot to get in there, so I had to improvise on what tools I was going to use to get in there. But with the fill plug out, we were done. In goes the new filter and the little retaining plastic thing, and then the cover on top. As you bolt it down, it will pull the cover in.
Oh, it's out.
I've literally been fighting with this pump for over an hour trying to get out. It was proper seized in there.
It is out. And the reason we want this out is because we want to change those rings, and also clean this stuff off here, which to be fair is a lot cleaner than what I thought it was going to be. So let me get that cleaned up, whip some new seals on there, and then we can put that back in.
So I removed the little white filter thing on the end, gave it a good blowout with the airline, refitted it back on, all nice and clean, and then removed the old seals. I think the back one's a bigger one, the front one's a smaller seal, and then cleaned up all around the little groove areas where the new seals are going to go and sit, because we don't want any leaks. It looks like it's been leaking here before, and I don't want it to leak once I've got this back in. So with the seals all on, it's time to push it back in, and it went in a lot easier than it came out. It was an absolute nightmare getting out. Now it's time to refit a new drain plug, so let's screw that in. And once we've torqued that to spec, we're now going to start filling the fluid up. You need to pump this in quite slowly, because as soon as you start trying to put it in, it just literally just trickles out. But then you need to get your scanner, OBD, whatever tool you're planning on using, VCDS, and you need to go through a procedure, like a bleed procedure, to bleed all the air out of it. So you need to activate the pump for 1 minute, then you need to engage the Haldex for 3 minutes. You'll hear the pump making a noise like so. Do this procedure about 3 times. It's a little bit long because you have to keep on turning the ignition off, going back, turning it back on again to reset the car, so it will do the procedure again. Otherwise I find it wouldn't do it. But with that all done, it's now time to top off the fluid, because it would have gone down while you pumped it around the system. So you just want to top that up until it literally starts trickling out. It is difficult because it does spill anyway, but I've got mine trickling out, so we're going to tighten that up. I could not get a torque wrench in there to tighten that, so just use a bit of common sense.
Now clear any fault codes, and that's another job done.
Now it's time to do a DSG service. So what I need to do first was remove the airbox to get it out of the way, so we've got access to the DSG filter. I have got a more in-depth video of doing a DSG service, so check out my other videos and you'll find it in there. And also I've got a video about we upgraded the DSG cooler as well. With the airbox now out of the way, we have a nice clear view of the DSG filter. We also need to remove this bracket because it's in the way of getting the housing and the filter out of the way. So I'm going to soak these in WD-40 for a few minutes. So let's get underneath the car and undo the drain stroke fill plug with a 14mm hex. Let's crack that off, and out comes the old fluid. It's quite dirty already considering it's only done 10,000 miles. And also remove the plastic sleeve inside, which does your level. That's an 8mm and it's only made of plastic, so be careful with it. So with the fluid all draining out, I'm going to put the plug back in and turn the car back on for 5 to 10 seconds. and you'll hear why. And look at the state of that extra fluid that just came out.
A lot more fluid comes out if you start up between 5 and 10 seconds and turn it straight off, because it does fling all the crap off the clutch plates. So I always do that, but it's up to you whether you do that.
Now time to focus on the filter. So I'm going to remove that bracket now, as the bolts have been left to soak in a bit of oil, so it is coming off quite easy. So with a 24mm socket we'll remove the housing cover, which will reveal the filter to us. There it is. As you can see all the dirt inside the housing, we are definitely not leaving that there. So obviously that is coming out, so I'm going to clean that and drain that as best as I can before refitting the new filter. We now need to insert a new seal around the housing. So on goes the new seal, get some fresh fluid out of one of the bottles. Let's pour a little bit in the lid, just so I can use that for extra seal for the housing, and screw that back on and torque that to 20 Newton meters, I believe it is. Now refit the filler sleeve and attach the fill hose. Screw it onto the inside of the bottle and turn it upside down and let gravity do its thing. I find once it's up, the bottle's upside down, just punch a hole in the bottom of it and it just helps speed it up. With all the fluid now in, all 6 litres in, now put the drain plug back in and just nip it up. We won't be torquing it at this stage.
Right, now we need our diagnostics to get the temperature up to, it's got between 35 and 45, so I usually get under here and pull it at 40. So let's get the car running and get up to temperature. Take quite a bit of time to get up to temperature, so it is what it is, but it's worth it because then we know it's done. So I've just put everything in there loosely because obviously I don't want anything getting sucked up into the turbo, but it's like that for a reason, because I've got more things to do, which you'll see in a later video. That will do for now, so let's start it up, get it up to temperature. So with it running, you want to go through the gears and hold it in each gear for 5 seconds to let the fluid circulate. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Alright, let's wait for it to warm up. 23. This is long, so I'm going to start tidying up when it does that. We're up to 33. 37. Proper long.
So with our temperature now up to 40, let's release the plug, let the excess fluid drain out until we get a nice steady stream. Nearly there. Nearly there. That'll do nicely. So now we're going to torque that up to 45 Newton meters, I believe it is. And now just give that a nice little clean. Happy days. So a nice easy one, just put it inside a Powerflex insert into the bush for the dog bone, but this bolt would not undo. I tried gunning it, I used a bar on it, everything. I could not get this undone.
Just to show you things don't always go to plan. There's a bush. One bolt. Would not come out. It is seized in there. It tore the bush trying to undo it. So now I've got to replace both of those. And to get the top one in, I've now got to drop the subframe. All of this for one bolt. Oh well, it is what it is. Maybe that will move up a bit and give us a bit more space. Hopefully. I just can't see us doing this without dropping the subframe.
So I cleaned up the area and got rid of any burrs.
I think I might have a result. There actually isn't a ridge. That was just build up of crap. So I should be able to just knock them both straight through this way. Oh my God, if I can do that, that'll be... I'll be well happy if I can just do that. So hopefully that one will just bang up. And then the other one will bang up. And happy days. Let's see if that works out. This might be a right result. I think I need to get that one in line and smash that one up as well. Just got to get this bit in and then we're good.
Trust me, it's not as easy as it looks. I was doing this for hours trying to get these bushes in.
So now we've got those bushes in, we can now get the Power Flex bush in, which hopefully it will just slide in lovely, but it's not gonna. But we have got a new dog bone as well. So that will be going in. New hardware, new bolts. Yeah, let's see if this thing's gonna slide in. I very much doubt it's gonna. I'm pretty sure it's gonna give me some jip.
I was so surprised on how easy this actually slid in, and so grateful it wasn't giving me any more problems. So let's fit the new bolts and then torque them all up to spec.
Now that's all torqued to spec. Happy days. Nice little modification to do. It's well worth doing, and hopefully it won't be as much of a ball ache as this one's been. Right, now let's get on to the next bit. We will be whipping the sump off in a minute because we will be changing the pickup pipe in there, and we will be putting a vids freewheeling oil balance shaft delete. I always think it's worth putting these in while you're here, because you never know when those shafts are going to seize up, and with the mileage in this car I don't want to take any risks, and I also want to see what the condition of that strainer is, so I very much doubt this sump has ever been off. So let's crack on with it. And if you want to know how to do this in a little bit more detail, I'll have a video of it up here somewhere, but I was going to crack on with this one and get it done.
So I started off by just removing any bolt that was holding the sump in place. There's 3 bolts on the transmission side, and then there's quite a few 10 mils, and there was one hidden which I found.
That should be all the bolts off. It's like this whole thing does have to come off. You have to take all of this frame off. Well, I did anyway. I think for 163,000 miles, that ain't looking too bad.
So now let's replace the pickup pipe. 1 bolt, 1 seal. In goes the new one. Nice and easy. I'm only using genuine parts. So now we need to get on with the freewheel. So just gun the old one off. There's the torque specs. So in goes the new one. I like to turn the engine over by hand very slightly like that, so it helps get the new cog in, and obviously torque that all up to spec and place the cover on.
That is the sump back on. I've just got to put the oil feed back on. I have to move loads of things out of the way because you have to get this aluminium frame out of the way so it runs through here. So let's button this up. Apart from that frame, start it up, make sure we've got no leaks. Obviously, putting your oil filter in and make sure we put the new oil in. So let's do that now. So I had to replace the camshaft sensor because when I was putting this cover on, I broke it. There's the old one. See, I broke the housing. It still works fine, but you know what I mean, for like 30, 40 quid, let's just change it up. I'm starting to get on there. Yeah. Right, let's do it. It's running, which is good. Let's check for oil leak.
So with the car running, I was having a good look around underneath, all around the seal, to make sure we had no oil leaks, and it was all looking pretty good. So happy days with that one. So let's now change the rear diff oil. Nice and easy job as long as the bolts come undone. So always remove the top one first just to make sure you can fill it, and then release the bottom one to let the old fluid out and have something to catch it. It wasn't looking too bad, to be fair. So in goes the bottom bolt back in, and then we're going to pump the fluid into the top hole until it starts to spill out, and then we know we are full. So once we've done the rear one, we're now going to do the front one.
And that's the rear diff all done.
And this was more difficult because the fill was very hard to get to, but it is doable. So there's the drain, obviously the fill's at the top. So same principle as doing the rear one, get the top one out first, the fill one out first, and then release the bottom one. And this stuff was disgusting. This has definitely never ever been changed. Look at the colour of that, it was brown. So with all that fluid all draining out, it's literally exactly the same as doing the rear diff. Put the drain one back in and then pump the top until it starts overflowing and spilling out, and then you know that is level. Happy days, that is another job done. So now let's tackle a little bit of bodywork. So the rear diffuser was not fitting correctly, and that was clearly because there was a crack, and also one of the fixes in the top had snapped off, but it was still there. So I managed to melt the plastic back together with a soldering iron, basically just like doing plastic welding without a plastic welder, but the principle's the same. You just melt the plastic together so it fuses together. I find it a lot stronger with glue, and where it is, it's never going to be seen, so it doesn't really need to be that pretty. So with that all melted back together and strong, I could then fit the rear diffuser back on, and there's the top one all welded. So now I'm going to tackle the spoiler, and it was rubbing because it was misaligned, which is quite simple to do. It's a couple of bolts underneath, Torx, so just loosen them off. I went up and down a few times to find the sweet spot of where it's set absolutely perfect, and when I was happy with where it was, as you can see, a lot better, a nice consistent line. Beautiful. And then tighten this up. So now I'm going to remove the exhaust down a little bit so we can replace that heat shield.
And like that, the old one's out. Or still in, so I'm going to try and pull these out, but if it feels like something's going to break, I'm not. Some Audi don't have any fixings in, so let's pull those out. So I managed to get all the clips off. So here's the old one, here's the brand new one. So let's get that in.
So I refitted the new exhaust heat shield, genuine one, and I used the push clips, which I usually just put a 10mm on the end of the extension and just hit the end of it, and that locks them all up in place. That is that heat shield, all nice and secure. Much better than that old rattly old thing that was falling off. So time to get it back on the rubbers, and then that is another job done. So I've just got this flap to put on. You'll see from the previous video when I first got this car that this was always missing. So obviously brand new genuine one, which just slots into place, and then there's one screw underneath. Huh. That's that. Looks like it just pushed on that, so then it's going to get the roof up now so I can put the screw in that I just made and a little washer, and then that is another job done. So I'll just start the car up to make sure we don't get a low battery, because it is just sitting here while we operate the roof flaps. And up with the flap, now I can access that screw. And there we go, all fitted, lovely jubbly. Another job done. Let's get in the car and change this as the original one
it wasn't quite working properly. That didn't light up, that wouldn't go out. That switch, I think that switch is basically faulty. I have got another one. It's actually the second one I've ordered. The first one, the other switch was broken, so hopefully third time lucky, well second time lucky, well third light unit, this is going to be all right. So let's bang that in, nice and easy to do.
So with a trim tool, I could just get behind the back of the light and prise it out like so. Swap the connections over and refit the new one.
Right, that's a nice little simple job to do. I'm just deciding whether to tackle the ball joints at the moment. I know it's something I need to do, or whether we save that for another video, because we have crammed quite a lot into this one. I don't know, I think we're doing pretty good with the project. We've done a lot, we've achieved a lot today. We've done a lot of things that I know what we're going to do. So we're just going to go and fit this new bonnet release pin made of aluminium, so it's not like those plastic ones that are going to keep on snapping, and it's made by Lots of Solutions, and TT Spares on eBay are selling them, so you can get one there. I will find a link and put it in the description, but it's definitely one of those must things to do. So let's go and whip the original out of the car, come in here, swap this over and put it in. It's so easy to do. Just like that. That is very simple. Just make a bit of space so you can see what is happening. So what we've got to do, let's get some light on the subject, is pull this out, pop this one in, happy days. And literally push that thing back in there like that. That's it. Done.
So I did decide to go and change both the front lower ball joints while I was out there. Quite simple to do, and one of them was an advisory on the last MOT, but 18mm nut on the top, 16mm on the bottom. I also scribed round the old one, so I had a little idea of where to fit the new one, but the car will definitely need tracking afterwards. Let's just put a little touch on the steering wheel just to fill up that little plain space there. I did this with my other one and I think they look good.
Well, doesn't that look pretty? Happy days. I think we're getting there now with the TT.
While I was on the roll, I thought I'll go underneath it and just give it a nice quick underseal. It just looks a lot cleaner under there now.
Been on axle stands far too long and it's just literally been waiting for parts. So let's crack on, get a few bits out of the way, get her on the ground, and then we'll be ready to get on the road and see how she actually drives. Let's do this.
So I'm going to take this opportunity while the car is still up in the air to give the brake calipers a nice little refresh. So first of all, let's give them a nice little clean up, prepare them for paint, a bit of masking tape, and then on goes a black bag just to make sure we don't get any overspray where we don't want it. I'm painting them Audi satin black, and I believe it's an OME finish. It comes out quite glossy at start, but once it dries out it does go more satin. If you're enjoying the videos, please give us a like and consider subscribing to the channel, because it will really help and we can get onto bigger and better things. With the rears done, it's time to get onto the fronts. Same thing as before, give them a good clean up, but the only difference with the front calipers is they are already painted black. So we need to give them a good scuff up and key up and mask and tape where we do not want the overspray going and what we don't want painting. So same as again, good clean up and all ready for paint. So with the caliper all ready, let's get some paint on it. And I can't tell you how good this paint is. It really does stick so well, and I'll definitely be using this product again. As I said before, it goes on quite glossy, but when it dries out it does go satin. So with the spring clip covers all off as well, I'm going to give them a good clean up. Scuff them up like we did with the front calipers. Get them ready for paint, and then we'll put a few coats of Audi satin black over those as well. With the paint all on them, it's time to put the TTS stickers on them. So I managed to get some of these online. I tried to get them on as straight as I could. I didn't think they went on too bad, but it definitely was well worth putting on. I don't think I've done too bad putting the stickers on. They're not absolutely perfect, but they are on the brakes and they will stand out. So that one is not as good as that one. I think that one's gone on better. Well, not gone on better, but it's more in the middle. So I've left the brakes a few days, so the paint's all gone off and it's all nice and good. They look pretty mint. Obviously I've still got to put the TTS guard on, but I've noticed the pads are probably about halfway worn, so I thought why not put some nice new ones on. So that's what we're going to do now. We're going to put some nice new pads on it and then bleed the braking system, and that is the brakes done. Oh, my hair's crazy. Right, let's do it. So I start by removing the reservoir cap so we don't break the master cylinder, and undo the, I believe there was 7mm hexes at the back. And then I push the piston back with a large screwdriver. And then finish pulling the slider pins out. I do grease these up before they go back in. So I use a bungee cord to just hold the caliper out of the way to stop it from getting damaged, because obviously it's got fresh paint on it. And remove the old pads. Just check the new pads against the old pads. And after looking at them a few times, I realised I have been sent the wrong pads. So we'll be back to finish these brakes off later on in the video, but I thought I'd just give them a little clean up now on the carriers, prepare them for when the new brakes get here. So it's finally here after about a month of waiting. It was supposed to be 3 to 4 days, but it's now here. I've been waiting for this. So let's see what I've been waiting for. So what's in the box is a genuine cam chain kit and tensioner and all the gaskets, everything we're going to need to do this. I've never changed the chain on one of these, so it's a first time experience for me, and I've heard that the cam adjuster bolt can be an absolute pain, and it can strip, and it can turn into an absolute nightmare. It's literally going to be like a few seconds happy days, or it's going to turn into about 5 hours of drilling and all sorts of stuff, which hopefully we're not going to get into, but I have got the genuine tool to undo it. So let's hope for the best, but let's go and strip that back and get to it so we can change that chain. So we need to remove all of this out the way so we can get to the chain and tensioner, which is in there. So I start off by removing the airbox. This is why I never really fitted it properly in the previous videos, because I knew I wanted to do this, because there was signs of stretch on the chain when I'd done the diagnostics. So unplug a few electrical cables and the hoses off the PCV. And then start removing the cool pack harness. Which can be a bit fiddly, but they do come off eventually. I'll just try not to break any clips. because everything seems quite good under here, so I want to try and keep it that way. So with things starting to get disconnected, it's time to start pulling these hoses off the back of the rocker cover, because the rocker cover will need to come off to do this job, because we will need to lock the cams in. So now it's time to move the coil packs. Then undo these 2 screws that are holding the cam belt cover on the side, as these are screwed straight into the rocker cover. So with those screws removed, it's time to get on to the many screws holding down the rocker. I think there's 12 or 13 altogether. I know there's quite a few on there. It might be more than that, I don't know. But I know there's definitely more than 10. So with the hose out the way, I crack on getting these all undone. It was quite time consuming. I should have got my electric ratchet in there, but I wanted to make sure it all came off really well and nothing got broke and nothing was seized. So I doubt this has ever been off. So with them all loose, it was time to get some movement on the cover, and there we go, got some movement on it. So with the rocker cover removed, you can now see the camshafts all exposed, and we need to lock these into place. But before we do that, let's remove the high pressure fuel pump, which we've had off pretty recently anyway. So we're literally going to be putting the same cam follower back in, but I did come with new bolts and seals in this kit for the chain, so I might as well use the new ones and keep these ones as spares just in case, even though they've done like 0 miles. So let's whip those bolts off and get this high pressure fuel pump out of the way. So I had to move this little coolant line out of the way, and then there's a spline that we need to undo to get the bracket, which we can literally bend out the way carefully. With that bent out of the way, you can move this wiring harness, and then we need to undo this bracket. Then I believe there's 7 torque bolts holding the cover on, so let's whip all those off. With all those bolts all whipped off, it's now time that we can remove the cover, and we need to remove this cover literally pulling it straight out, straight as we can be. Trying to be very careful with it. And put a rag underneath, as there is like an oil feed sort of bit inside there for the VVT or something, and it just constantly keeps on dripping out. So just put a rag there. If you look at the tensioner, you can see the bottom of it, some of it's missing. I did actually find all those bits in the sump when I did the pickup pipe and oil balance shaft delete. So with that all off, we can now lock the cams in place with a special tool. So let's tighten that down, and then we're going to mark the camshafts where they are. I have got the car at the moment at top dead center, so I'm just marking them because they will probably move. Apparently this bolt, that's the bolt that could be an absolute pain. They have been known to shear off and cause all sorts of problems, so I'm hoping it just comes undone without too much hassle. Let's give it a go. It's going to be a 5-second bolt, or it's going to end up being a 5-hour bolt. So let's pray that it's going to crack off. At this point I was so happy that that bolt came undone. It could have been an absolute nightmare if it sheared off in there or something bad happened, but we are very lucky. So with that bolt undone, we can now remove the chain and the variator, I believe that is. I could be wrong. And let's remove the old tensioner. Have you noticed I put the pin in to keep it down, to stop it from springing out and going everywhere? And on goes the new one, genuine. And then we torque these down to spec. These are new bolts as well. And with the tensioner all in place, I start marking up these cams. I have to do a big shout out to Nick at Decimal Temps, because I'm literally following his guide on how he done it on his video, and it seemed the best way to do it. So big shout out to him, mate, legend. I wouldn't have done this if I hadn't seen your video. So with the chain on correctly, it's time to get it back on the cam, so I just had to move it back very slightly and then put in a new cam bolt and then torque that to spec, which was 20 newton meters plus 45 degrees. Another thing to do while you're here is to change the camshaft for just the housing seals. 3 of them. They're only made of like a plastic, but use genuine ones. They are a little bit expensive, but you only want to be going in there once.
Alright, with all the seals on and everything all on, it's time to put it all back together. So we're all basically all back together now, and I thought, why not treat it to some nice brand new plugs. So let's whip these in, and then I think we're near enough to be ready for a start, and hopefully we won't hear any metal, because that would be a negative.
So nice and easy, just whip the old plug out and put a new one in. I do them one at a time, so I whip the old one out, put the new one in, then I move on to the next one. This way I know it's in there, and it eliminates the risk of anything falling into the engine. And with them all in, I just torque them all down to spec, which I do is 30 newton. Some people say 25, but I do 30. It looks like it's had new coil packs recently. These literally look brand new, and they're proper NGK ones. So let's pop the coil packs in, and then connect them up to the harness and screw that down. I think we're nearly ready for that start. Just double check everything. That's, that needs to go on. Let's get that on there. Good. I think I might just quickly turn it over by hand first, just to make sure. So at this point the microphone decided to have a meltdown for about a minute, and unfortunately it ruined the sound quality of the first startup, but I will do that again at the end of the video. Right. If we hear metal on metal now, very, very bad. But hopefully we should be okay. That's got to be a good sign. So with the engine all running sweet, let's now get it all put back together under here. So I start off by putting the airbox bracket back in, which is held on by 3 10mm bolts. Right, let's tighten those down. And then we slide the airbox on top and push that down over the rubber grommets and do 1 10mm bolt to secure it into place. And put like a little plastic duck on and treat to a nice brand new man air filter. and that is the engine bay all together with its engine cover on, looking perfect. Now let's get back to the brakes that we started earlier on the video, as the new ones have now turned up and they are correct. So let's copper grease up where we're going to be sliding. People do say don't use copper grease on brakes, use proper brake stuff, but as you can see, prevents disc brake squeal, so it's actually made for the job. So with that, let's now put a little bit on the pads, push that into the caliper and get the front one ready, then slide the caliper on and now do those 7mm hexes up and put the dust covers on. So now with the brake pads in, let's now fit the retainer spring sort of clip thing, whatever it's called, on. It was a bit fiddly.
I think that looks a lot better now. Right, just got to go and do the other side and then we'll bleed up the system, put the wheels on and get this thing on the ground. So now the new pads are all in and the brakes are back together. Nice. On this side you do have a sensor for the a brake pad wear sensor. So let's start bleeding the brakes now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to empty the reservoir. I'm going to put some fresh fluid in here and then put my pressure bleeder on. Normally you'd start from the furthest away from the reservoir when you do a car, but Audi Volkswagen decided you do it from the closest to the reservoir, and to be fair, I did that on my other Mark II and the brakes are absolutely fine. So we'll do the same on this one, so it's got nice fresh fluid throughout the car and then we get it on the floor.
So with the reservoir all topped up, let's now fit the brake pressure bleeder and pump this up to around about 20 psi, just under. Find somewhere safe for it to stay. Yeah, that will do. And remove the little dust cover off the bleed nipple and put a clear hose on into a bottle and then use a brake spanner. These were 11mm. I'm bleeding approximately probably 200 millilitres out of each caliper, and keep on checking on the bleeder to make sure we don't drop too much pressure. Don't want to drop below 10 psi ideally. That's the first one done. I'll put the dust cover back on the nipple.
On to the next one.
So now we just literally do the same to all the other 3 calipers. The only thing different is the rears, as the nipple location is a little bit harder to get to, and I couldn't get the proper brake spanner on, so I had to use a normal 11mm.
The good thing about using a pressure bleeder is we probably won't have to bleed the ABS unit because we've got a constant pressure there, so it should never be running dry.
So on the last caliper now. And it comes.
And now let's get under the bonnet, make sure our level is correct and make sure, most importantly, we still have a pedal. Now with my brake level all correct and all done, let's see if we still have a hard pedal. And we do. So let's start it up just to make sure it's all good. Brakes feel spot on so far, so let's get those wheels on. So that's all on the ground now. Wheels all torqued up. I've still got to put the centre caps on, but I need to take it for a drive and then I'll torque those back up. Needs a good tidy up and clean out.
I know the audio in the video when we done the first start wasn't great, so I'm going to do that again for you now. So here she goes. She sounds absolutely spot on.
So let's get out in the TTS and see how she is after all that work we've done. The red one's looking a little bit sorry for itself at the moment and does need a good clean. But I've just moved all the cars around, so hopefully she's gonna have no issues and be absolutely mint. Let's get going. Nice to actually see what this car's about, because I've literally driven it down one road since I bought it. So let's get out on the road. It's driving quite smooth actually, and the tracking ain't even that far out from doing those ball joints. Gear change is lovely and smooth, so it's definitely well worth doing that DSG service. But I don't even really know if the gearbox wasn't that smooth before, because it seemed to right on the one road that I went down. But at least we know it's done. The Haldex, no 4x4 warning light saying nothing's not working. So far, it's doing all right. It drives quite nice. I think I will get this tracking done, but it's not a million miles out. I've driven probably about 30 miles now-ish, roundabout, and our temperature gauge is not getting to 90. It seems to have hovered around about, I'd say, 80-ish. It should have definitely have warmed up by now. It should have warmed up within the first mile, really. So I think it's going to need a thermostat, which I remember when I've done the one on my red TC, it's not a very nice job to do, but I think we're going to have to do that. But apart from that, everything else seems spot on. Right, there's no warning lights, no nothing. It's actually going really well. So it looks like we've got an issue with the thermostat sticking open and only hitting 80 degrees whilst driving. It obviously sitting still now, it's hit 90, but it will go back down. So we need to definitely swap that out. So let's get back, order one of those up and get it fitted and hit the road again.
So boom, one new thermostat. Only 2 bolts and 3 hoses, but its location is an absolute nightmare. It's under the inlet manifold, so it's not the easiest job in the world, but we need to do it, so let's just crack on. Right in there.
So let's start by disconnecting the battery, because we will be removing the alternator and we don't want to be getting a shock. Then remove the engine cover and move the charcoal canisters, just trying to get as much access as possible. Now let's remove the alternator belt and this hose so we can move the canister out of the way a bit further. Then undo the 3 bolts holding on the tensioner for the belt, so that needs to come out of the way. So with that removed, we can now see the two 13 mils that we need to remove next, which are holding the alternator in. Now let's make a bit more space by starting to move some of these hoses out the way, because we need as much access as possible to be able to get this alternator out. So anything that I feel like is in the way, I'm just literally removing it. So with the alternator slightly pulled out the way, I can now see the plug that I need to disconnect, and there's also another cable going to a 30mm which we will need to undo, and boom, the alternator is out. So with the alternator removed, we can now see the thermostat, which is held on by two 10mm bolts, and this torque needs to get undone so we can remove that pipe.
So I've got this pipe loose,
So hopefully it will give me enough to pull that out. And all that stuff fall off. And that one undone.
I also removed this pipe which was connected to the thermostat, and there's another multi-spline there which was holding this pipe down. With all the hoses disconnected and the two 10mm bolts off, it's time to remove the thermostat.
this is a horrible job to do. I don't think it was this bad when I done it on the red one a few years ago, but it just seems to be an absolute nightmare. Maybe it's the mileage, everything's just a little bit more stuck in there. But we're out, so let's get the new one in. Old one, new one. Hopefully it ain't gonna be so bad putting this back in. We're getting there. I think before we go too far, let's put a bit of coolant in there and just see if we've got any obvious leaks. Hopefully we'll be alright. Won't really know until the system's under pressure, but at least this will give us a quick idea if there's anything completely obvious. Let's whip that alternator back in and get everything else back together. So alternator is back in, just got to nip those up and put the tensioner on and just, you know, connect any loose bits. But as you can see, our coolant has disappeared, but we have nothing leaking underneath, so we'll be topping that back up in a minute. So I think we might be all right. So let's just get these last little bits done, start it up, and then we can bleed the system, and hopefully we've got no leaks. Right, I think I've got everything back together. Just double check everything. Lights all on, they're all on, they're all on, they're all on. That's all back on, that's all back on, that's all back on. So let's top this back up. Right, I'm going to start up and check for leaks before I get it on the floor, because that would be an absolute negative if that was the case.
Topping up the coolant again.
Ready mixed.
Now I'm just looking absolutely everywhere to see if there's any coolant leaking out from anywhere. But so far, it's looking alright.
I think we're good. I'm going to start putting the under tray back on, engine cover back on, get it back on the floor, and then we'll take it out and see if we get up to temperature. Standard, many lights on.
Right, second time lucky, let's do this. Now that thermostat was an absolute pain to do. So let's go. Right, it says we've got a TPS fault. I'm sure we probably don't. Set. Let's have a look. Check. Alright, TPS. I think my last TPS was in here. Right, how do I get TPS off of this? That. We're going to have loads and loads of full codes now. So obviously unplugging the battery. As soon as you unplug the battery on one of these, everything goes mental and you get about 1 million codes. I'm going to pull over in a second because I want to get rid of this TPS tyre pressure, TPMS, which is on my screen. I don't think it's going to let me do it while I'm moving. I've been trying to press the button and it won't let me do it. So I'm going to pull over and also clear any codes, because I can see that I've got 5 codes so far that have come up, but I'm pretty sure they're all going to be for low voltage, so the battery being disconnected. And also what I also want to do is when we stop, I just want to let it burp, like see if there's any air still in the system, so driving it will get everything moving a bit better. So we can release the reservoir cap and also top it up if we need to. That should be all good. But so far it's staying at 90, it's bang on 90, and I will show you this. I'm just literally just waiting somewhere safe to pull over. So it's got that TPS code come up, bang on the 90. 9 fault codes on that. So let's see if holding down the button's actually going to yay! No! Yay! So that's that one gone. Wicked. So still on 90. We're just scanning. I think we've got 12 faults so far. We'll come back to that in a second. Let's see whether we need to undo the cap and see what our coolant level's at. So I always put down the window on these because I'm just worried about them locking yourselves out. So we have dropped. Fans are all going. Ooh. Right, let's get rid of those codes. Now we've only got one control unit. Let's see what that one is. Sound system. What's our faults? Control module. Aftermarket sound system. So we'll carry on going for a drive, and when we get back we'll scan it for codes again, and hopefully we've still just got that. So I've just pulled over and we are still at 90. Nothing's moved at all. It has literally stayed bang on 90, so doing that thermostat was well worth it. And now I could probably quite happily say the car's absolutely no issues. I think everything on it works. So it still does need a good clean, nice detail and touch up a bit of paintwork, but mechanically I'd say it's perfect. Now, have we stayed within our budget on the cheap TTS project? Let's hop in the car, talk about it, find out where the money's gone and see what the results are. Let's go. Let's see if this cheap TTS project is still a cheap TTS. As you see in a previous video, I said I wanted the budget to be...
Budget for this build was 5k, including buying the car. So I think if you can have a sorted TTS for 5k, I think that's right. That's a result, isn't it?
£5,000, and that was for doing everything. So let's see what we spent. So the car itself cost us £3,600, which was the cheapest TTS in the country at the time and may still be. And being a roadster, I think that was a great price. But obviously it did have its issues and a lot of maintenance was not up to date. So we had to spend quite a lot on maintenance. So we gave the car a full service. And that consists of oil filter, oil, spark plugs, air filter, fuel filter, pollen filter, and a sump plug. And that came to £146.75. And I used all MAN parts and top of the range NGK plugs. And the MAN is basically what is OME spec. That is what the manufacturers use anyway. It's just that it's got the Audi Volkswagen badges and boxes on, but they are MAN parts. So that wasn't too bad. Then we done the cam belt and water pump and idlers and used a genuine Volkswagen Audi kit for that. And that came in at £250. We also tackled the drivetrain, which consists of the DSG service, the Haldex and the front and rear diff oils. And that came in at £173.14. Another thing with this car was, when I first got it, I checked on the diagnostics and it was showing signs of chain stretch. So I thought, do you know something, if I'm going to keep this car, or even if I'm going to sell this car, I want to make sure it's a good car. And I had no problems in the future with it. Obviously there'll be little things, but if anything that we can sort out now, let's do it. So I put a genuine cam chain and tensioner kit, which also came with a special Volkswagen Audi tool to undo the cam bolt, which is an absolute nightmare, which I was worrying quite a lot about.
Apparently this bolt, that's the bolt that could be an absolute pain. They have been known to shear off and cause all sorts of problems, so I'm hoping it just comes undone without too much hassle. Let's give it a go. It's going to be a 5-second bolt, or it's going to end up being a 5-hour bolt. So let's pray that it's going to crack off.
And that came to £284 for that kit, but it's genuine and we'll probably never need to do that ever again. So we did do some extra bits as well, just as precautions. Like we changed the cam follower and we also replaced the pickup pipe with genuine item and with new gaskets and new seals. That wasn't too bad. That was only £114. Now let's talk about the actual bits that were broken on the car. So the broken bits was the dipstick, the roof flap cover which was missing, the exhaust heat shield which was like a colander and it was literally hanging off.
So here's the old one, here's the brand new one.
A camshaft sensor, which I did put a genuine one on, but that was my fault, I broke that. And we replaced both the front lower ball joints, even though one of them was advised on the MOT, but I thought it's best to replace both sides. Also the actual dog bone and both the bushes for that were replaced. Then again, possibly my fault for trying to fit the upgraded bush.
Now this is one of those 5-minute jobs that is now turning into about 5 hours. Tell me about it.
Anyway, that's all new anyway, so that's done. The interior light, we put a good second-hand one in. I also had a code for the evap, which I now have sorted out, which I replaced the purge valve and the charcoal canister. And we also replaced the thermostat because we were only getting to 80 on the temperature and not getting to the 90. With all the broken bits, came in at £430.55. And that is replacing all the broken bits, so I don't think that's too bad. And obviously the back bumper diffuser was not on great, but that didn't cost anything to fix that, so that's obviously not on the list. We also gave the brakes a nice little facelift by giving them that nice bit of paint. We changed the fluid in them, we put new pads in them, and we put the nice new TTS stickers on and made them look absolutely wicked. Brake fluid I already had, so I didn't have to put that on the list. So the brakes altogether only cost £67.88 to do those. So let's talk about the upgrades. So knowing the TFSI engine, I know about the oil balance shaft, and I know that they can seize. And with my red one, I did put the vids freewheel in there, so I would not have to worry about the balance shaft ever seizing. So I did that to this one as well. And also we put in the Powerflex dog bone mounts, insert bushing, which they do make a nice bit of difference without being harsh. So on upgrades, we spent £233.04. Also, this car only came with one key, and that bugs me, because if I ever lost that key or got it stuck in the car, that is going to be an absolute headache. So I actually got another key made up. So I've got a new key. So now the car has 2 keys. That was £235, but I think that was well worth it for a resale value, and also if we decide to keep the car. And obviously then you've got your miscellaneous items, which is like coolant, new bolts, touch-up paint, you know, obviously the brake fluid and stuff like that, and some things I already had in stock, so I didn't have to put a price on them. Which that only came to £100.90. That brings us to the price of all the parts for this car come in at £2,035.26. Plus that to the price of the car of £3,600. We've come in at £5,635.26. And I don't know where else you'd get a TTS for that sort of money, fully sorted and fault-free, with all those big maintenance items done, like the cam belt, the chain, the DSG service, the Haldex. Whoever changes the diff oil on them, we've done it all. This car is absolutely faultless, and it drives so well. So what do you think about what we spent? Do you think £5,635.26 is a really good price for an absolutely sorted, faultless TTS Roadster? It is high mileage at 164,000 miles, and I've done 367 miles in this now. Everything is working as it should. So comment below what you think, whether you think this is a good deal. And also comment below, what do you think this car's worth now? Have we added value to it? I reckon we could probably get £6,500 for this now. I know the mileage is high, but it doesn't need anything for a long time. Next year will just literally be an oil service, but it won't need any major items, because all the major service things we've done, and we've got proof, we've got it all on video. So if people ever want to see it, they can see it getting done. But this also brings me to the next question. What do we do with this car? Do we keep it? Do we sell it? I do quite like it, and I am going to be using this to go to Quattrophenia 3 this year in September. I believe it's September the 7th, to go and do the London to Brighton run. And I'll take this, it'll be a good run, but as I said, I've already done, what, 368 miles now, and it's been absolutely faultless. The only problem I have with holding on to this car is that A, I probably need the space, and B, we could do with the funds to then buy something else to do another project. So maybe comment below what project you'd like to see next. I think we need to do something crash damaged and get onto a bit of this Copart stuff. So I've never really done any bodywork, so I think it'll be good to get on that and have a go at that. Surely it's only nuts and bolts, but who knows? We'll find out. Also, someone in my on my social medias commented that I put the wrong stickers on the brake calipers, and I have actually changed that now, so you can see a picture of that here. Someone even commented in one of the videos, does the roof not work? You've never got the roof down. The roof works perfect. So I'm going to go for a nice drive now with the roof down. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.
Everybody just do your thing. Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. 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 Wake up, today's gonna be a good day.